Greg, fantastic to have you here at Kenilworth. We've got a little bit of a drizzle happening here, but thank you for taking the time.
Pleasure.
During the race meeting here, you've come to watch your horses run.
Yeah, not our finest start, but that's the nature of it. You got to have lots of average runs so that when the good ones come, you can really scream them home.
Obviously, a week out of the July, I wanted to chat Pomp and Power because you came to watch him. Obviously, he won the Derby and had a mixed sort of few runs in Durban. What is your feeling on how it went?
Um, uh, Listen, we had high hopes and high expectations, and long may that continue. Obviously, never got the result we wanted. Um, I actually think his prep was fine. His prep was fine. We didn't want him to win coming in because of what weight he would wind up coming in at. So it went great, but he had his behavioural issues, and they were definitely evident within the July. But as I said on a previous interview that I'd done, um, any disappointment I had is very short-lived. At the end of the day, I own a horse that was in the July, the lead up, the journey to get there, so amazing that it's hard to be too disappointed. I mean, got to keep in perspective. I think it was fantastic.
And Hollywood to have their first July day, what was that experience like being on the ground as an owner and obviously interacting with the team there, the Gold Circle and the Hollywood teams?
I think the July was an exceptional event, and just a few days before, obviously the shackles came off in terms of COVID restrictions, so managed to get way more people on course. I think they did an exceptional job. I think the July went terrifically. What a fantastic event! I think those who are on course will have experienced it. Just everything was fantastic. So and it was great for me to spend time with them and see Hollywood's team at work and Devon and everybody, and I thought they did an exceptional job.
I think there's a lot of speculation going out, and obviously Cape Racing's released a press release on sort of the new sort of deal that's going to happen for Cape Racing. What's been the response from trainers, owners, from media to the Hollywood bets and yourself?
I think by and large, actually, the very vast majority of all responses have been incredibly positive, for a few reasons. I've made no secret of the fact that absent some urgent intervention, Cape Racing was falling over. It was as simple as that. I mean, it wasn't like the patient was critical. I mean, the patient was literally dead. And so you're actually just bringing it back to life. But more than that, more than just keeping it alive, the aim is to make racing in the Cape survive and thrive. So it couldn't not but be well received, because I think everybody was acutely aware of the situation we found ourselves in. That's number one. But in terms of Hollywood and myself, I think the reaction has been very, very positive. Of course, in social media, you always get a few detractors. I'll get to that separately. But on the whole, very positive. Obviously, what Hollywood has done and continues to do for racing and sport in South Africa through the extensive sponsorships, involvements, community service, what have you, it's don't need me to tell. That's self-evident. And I think together with me being based in the Cape, and us partnering together to do this, I think, yeah, the reaction has actually been overwhelmingly positive. I think the only negative there's always those that say somebody's got a sweetheart deal somewhere, and my reaction on social media was very simple. I gave my cell phone number. I said, if you think this is a sweetheart deal, here's my number. Come join in, invest alongside, and you can also share in the sweetheart deal, because it's not a sweetheart deal. This is a rescue package where if everything goes according to plan, maybe at some point in the very distant future, we may get back some or all of our money. But making money on our money is not going to happen. So if anyone else wants to share in that sweetness, they are absolutely welcome to.
And I have seen that you've been quite active in responding to comments, and that plays into what I think is your choice in being transparent and discussing some of the problems. So is that sort of, what's been the feedback to that transparency? Can you discuss that forward?
Yeah. Look, I think that's just my style in life. That's not something I developed last week, and it's one of the reasons why I was so excited to partner with Hollywood. I mean, Owen Heffer just says it the way it is. He's no nonsense, he's direct, and he's the exact same as me in that regard. We say it the way it is, and whether you like the answer or don't like the answer, we're not tailoring our response for you to be happy. We say what we believe to be true. So I think that is why we get on so well, and why I think our partnership not only is working but will continue to work. I think in the context of racing, that approach is very well received. I don't have to go back too far in recent history to see the recent trials and tribulations of, of racing, and there was always clouded in a veil of secrecy. Things took place amongst the inner cabal and the inner circle, and a few people were in the mix, and nobody knew what was going on. And to me, that's ridiculous, and that's the mold we're breaking. So I actually had a trainers meeting today, met with all the trainers here in Cape Town, had 100% attendance in person, or a few on by phone that were not able to be there, and just laid out exactly what our plans are, what Hollywood and myself's plans are, and how we expect to run things, and the sacrifices we are making, and the sacrifices that we are hoping that the trainers will make to restore Cape Town to former greatness and to actually take it to the next level. And I think that was greatly appreciated.
Can you discuss more on what was said in that meeting? You have a choice to discuss what you can disclose, but I know trainers will go and call their owners, so some information will come out. So as to get ahead of that from you, what can you share?
No, there'll never be secrets. There's nothing that's non-disclosable. First of all, it's very hard to keep secrets in racing to begin with, so it's a futile exercise. I'm not even going to go there. The plans are obvious. There are two sides to fixing a business that's losing money. You've either got to cut costs and you've got to grow your profits or your revenues, right? So on the cost-cutting side, as I explained to everybody today, we are going to need to, Cape Town has too many properties and facilities, and we need to be smarter. We've got to consolidate in fewer facilities. The exact nature of that consolidation, how that will work, where all the trainers are situated, the money that we're going to invest in upgrading certain facilities, perhaps closing or selling others, is what I discussed. It's not a case of not disclosing it to you now, Troy, because we are working with property consultants and the like to come up with the most cost-effective, smart plan. So that's on the cost side. In addition, one area we'll be adding costs is adding to the team here at Kenilworth Racing. For the longest time, there has not been a team at Kenilworth Racing. Kenilworth Racing was run by Phumelela under a management agreement. Phumelela, as we know, filed for business rescue, and Kenilworth Racing has sort of been a lost orphan stepchild for the longest time. So we're going to need to spend money building up a team. So I think as a racing operator, the key thing for us has to be the horse population. The horse population in the Cape has fallen significantly, and that has knock-on negative effects. Smaller horse population, fewer fixtures, fewer meetings, smaller field sizes. Smaller field sizes equals smaller betting revenue, which equals smaller tote pools, which equals less money available for stakes. So how are we going to reverse that? Well, first of all, we, meaning Hollywood and myself, are going to be dipping into our pockets to increase stakes, and not just increasing stakes a little bit, but increasing stakes materially, that we think will be attractive to owners around the country to come race their horses in the Cape, which we actively encourage. That's number one. Number two, we're going to be a lot smarter on our program. Not every race in the Cape is going to be a merit rated 76 or above. And what does that mean? It means your horses that are perhaps slightly lower rated, perhaps slightly weaker, are struggling to get a run in races that make sense for them, and as a result they move to other centres, which is a big reason why a lot of the horses wind up leaving the Cape. So we intend to hold a number of races, lots of races, on a calendar, on a day, on a race day, for lower rated horses. So that means there will be races for owners of horses of all caliber, and without there being a reduction in stakes. So everybody gets to race, which means if you've got a horse that is a slightly lower caliber, you don't have to think, okay, I've got to move it now to which other centre I'm going to move it to. And that's a major difference. And we can do that. All we are doing is widening the range of opportunities. We are not weakening our Group 1s or anything like that. We're simply adding to the program. And that just leads to a knock-on effect. Now you've got a bigger population. You have horses of all caliber, you have bigger field sizes, you have bigger tote revenue, you have bigger turnover, and so it continues. Obviously, with Hollywood being the preeminent fixed odds betting partner firm in the country, to have them as a strategic partner owner of Cape Racing, of Kenilworth Racing, is a huge coup. So I think using their expertise at customer service, everything they bring to the table from in terms of sponsorship and marketing and all these other things, together with the initiatives that we're going to do, I think you're going to see a major difference. But ultimately, I'll say, as with any business, as I've learned over time, the strength of a business rests in its people. The product is obvious. It's horse racing, and those that are involved in the industry love it. But we are going to materially add and upgrade to the team, who in turn will be thinking of cutting-edge, revenue-enhancing opportunities on a day-to-day basis.
Let's speak on Hollywood and what they've done in terms of sponsorship, in terms of ownership, because I think to your point on how the horse population changes and moves, they've done it on purpose. They've invested in horse racing from the ownership side and the betting side. Can you give us a context for Cape Racing and what that could mean?
Yeah. What I would say is you definitely need to separate the ownership side and certainly the sponsorship side. At the end of the day, we want to attract sponsors from all industries, whether they be the entertainment industry, whether they be other companies in the betting industry. As you know, WSB is a fantastic sponsor of racing in the Cape, including the Met. We encourage that. We're going to continue to do that, I think. And Hollywood will be competing for sponsorship along with all of our other sponsors that want to sponsor some of the great events and the new festivals and the new things we're going to be announcing in short order. So that's on the sponsorship side. On the ownership side, from my perspective in the Cape, having looked at this business, this was a business, as I said, that was managed up in the northeast by Pumalela. And then when Pumalela fell over, there was nothing and no one here to manage the business. And being able to call on their infrastructure expertise in due course, once the transaction is approved and once they're able to take up the ownership stake, I think will be of huge strategic benefit. On the betting side, their prowess goes without saying, and Kenilworth Racing today does not have a fixed odds platform. It simply has a tote, and that's not sufficient. That's, unless you are in Hong Kong, that's not necessarily the solution in this country on a standalone basis. So we get to call on their expertise, but at the end of the day, they are already one of the preeminent betting firm. This is not necessarily accretive to them from an earnings perspective. They're doing this because, like me, Owen is just sick for horse racing, and he's done it for the best of reasons, as hopefully have I, and that will be self-evident in the months and years ahead. And I just think, but it just makes him what a unbelievable partner for Cape Racing. I think we're super lucky to have him.
Greg, on a light-hearted side, you're a huge Tottenham fan. Okay, so let's touch on that. New season's coming up. Are you going to watch a few games? Do you go watch games? What's your sickness for Tottenham like? How deep does that love go?
There is nothing light-hearted about that question. Let's get that out there, okay? The sickness is real. I've been sick for Spurs since I was 6 years old. 6 years old. I actually have 6 season tickets at Spurs. Pre-COVID, I'd spent a lot of time in London, had a home in London, spent a lot of time there watching Spurs. And, I mean, listen, I attribute my life, any success that I've had in life, I credit Spurs with. Because Spurs has taught me that as well as you think you're doing, you're invariably going to stub your toe, and it's going to go badly. So I can handle any adversity. As a Spurs fan, you just know that you're going to be up 3-0 and you're going to lose 4-3, and you never get complacent as a Spurs fan because you know your next drama is just around the corner. So with that life experience, I think I can handle Cape Racing. Spurs fan, being a Spurs fan has absolutely teed me up for this, no question.
Head out. Um, and in getting to know Greg and what drives you we know about your horse love, we know about your football love, we heard about your family. What drives you in the morning? Is it all those three combined? Is there a certain mantra that you live by when you wake up in the morning, or what's a routine like for you?
Well, I've always said the only thing, it doesn't matter who you are in life, the most precious resource that we all have and share is time, right? So I'm not a big one for wasting time because it is so fleeting. So those very things that you mentioned, I try not to waste time on things that are not additive to my life. You know, my family's everything. My kids are all over the world. I speak to them constantly, irritate the hell out of them because I don't stop speaking to them. I love my horses, so every day I'm looking at that because that's additive. As I said, Spurs is more of a love-hate thing, but you know, so I like to focus on the things that I love. I've tried to shape my life in a way that I don't deal with the admin or the negativity. That's the thing that I try and do. If something's negative, I cut and I move, and I focus only on the positive.
Perfect. And lastly, if you want to give a closing message to owners, potential owners, to people that sort of watching from afar, is there anything else that can give them a takeaway?
Well, I think, listen, talk is cheap, as we know, especially in this industry where talk is very, very cheap. I can tell you, Hollywood and my commitment to restoring Cape racing to where it should be is significant. Not just in terms of the money, which is significant, but in terms of the time and the energy that is going to be invested into it. The concept of us failing is something that we cannot and won't contemplate. It's going to take time. Certainly we cannot get going until all regulatory processes have been completed. So we've got to hurry up and wait to get to the start line. But once we are there, I think the transformation will be rapid. We're going to see major investments in facilities, in upgrading what is a tired old lady in Kenilworth Racecourse, and certainly in the training centers. We want to make our training centers inviting to out-of-town trainers who we encourage to come raid, to come spend time here. But most importantly, to owners. I mentioned earlier in this chat, Troy, that we're going to increase stakes. We're going to broaden and diversify the program so that there are races for everybody. I think this is going to be an outstanding racing experience. And to do so in the backdrop that is Cape Town, Table Mountain, the beauty that we have around us, I think it's going to be a racing experience, certainly in this country, second to none. And I would encourage all owners to think about supporting our great trainers here in Cape Town.
We're into the closing stages and Champs-Élysées beats Desert Miracle. Every stride, double superlative, puts his head in front close home. He wins the Guineas going away. And Jet Dark is going to make it back-to-back wins in the Long Rock Queen's Plate. These two left to fight it out. Corbett Dung has now taken the lead. Corbett Dung wins the bet.